Good evening and welcome to Ninja Media TV. In light of the declaration of state of emergency in Rivers State by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which led to the suspension of Governor Similaye Fubara, his deputy, and all the lawmakers in the state, there has been considered debate regarding the legality and constitutionality of these actions. Prominent figures, including the former president uh, of the Federal Republic, Goodluck Jonathan, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, and the Nobel laureate, Professor Woloshenka, have voiced their condemnation of these measures, raising concerns about the implication for the democracy and governance in Nigeria. To dive deeper into these issues, we are joined by our dear sister from from River State, a renowned environmental and human rights activist from the Niger Delta region. Annkio Briggs, we call him the Big Mommy, has been a steadfast advocate for the rights of the people in the Niger Delta and brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to this discussion. In this interview, I welcome him to this conversation. Good evening, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Mazi. Good evening, and thank you for having me.
So let's quickly dive into what has happened now. For the past couple of days, we have witnessed with shock what had happened, and this, to my personal shock, came. We did speak the day you were a delegate of the Pandev that went to see the president. We did try speaking. We postponed that conversation, but as a shock, he came afterwards to note that the president then suspended a democratically elected governor of the state. Recalling the conversations you had at the presidential villa with the delegation of the Pandev, do you think there was a decision already made before you and your team went to see the president?
Yes, that is my opinion. Because as I have said in other discussion panels or interviews, there was something about that day that made me to feel that everything was not right, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I was convinced that something was up when we were made to wait for literally almost 2 hours. You don't invite the people of a whole region or agree to meet the people of a whole region. In this instance, Niger Delta region, the body PANDEF that comprised of dear to speak traditional rulers, Obong Victor Atta, the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, retired military men across the Niger Delta. You don't agree to meet with those sort of people. And I was a delegate from River State and also from Pandef to a meeting where we raised issues, as usual, of Niger Delta interest. And the number one issue was the issue of the River State political crisis. Before we went, the Pandef had already suggested last October, after its new executive came on board in October. And one of the decisions that the executive body made at the national level was to say that Pandef will set up a reconciliation, a peace and reconciliation committee which was headed by Obong Atta, the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, somebody like a seasoned diplomat like Dr. Bolade Igali from Bayelsa State. And so
Mhm.
when that was announced, it became clear to them that it was difficult for them to see or get an acceptance by the FCT minister to see them. And you could then fast forward to conclude why he felt he was too big to see Pandef, because he then proceeded after the meeting to describe Pandef in very disrespectful way. The president, I believe, disrespected the region by keeping us waiting. Um, and what the president said to us, with all the points, agenda, if you like, that we presented to him, of which Rivers State was number one, was that we should go back to Niger Delta and tell the governor of Rivers State to abide with and do what the Supreme Court had said, bearing in mind that the Supreme Court did not have before it any of the points, whether they were the Amehule-led lawmakers of River State were still lawmakers, bearing in mind that they had walked away from their constituents under circumstances that were not provided for by the Constitution, which is to say that if you are a lawmaker in a state and if your state had issues, then you could leave your party and cross over. But that if there were no issues, no crisis in your party, then you couldn't. And if you did, it meant that you had lost your seat. It was automatic because there was a precedent that had been set in court by the same Supreme Court long ago in other circumstances. So that matter had nothing to do with the Supreme Court that gave the judgment recognizing the Amehule-led House of members of House of Representatives, whose sole interest, they keep telling us, is that they are supporters of the former governor of Rivers State. So we came back home. I arrived back in Rivers State on the 12th. The meeting was on the 11th. I left Abuja, as many other people did, back to their various places, homes, which mine is in Rivers State. By the time we got to Rivers State, we began to see things that were unfolding that now made me to understand why I felt so uneasy in the way that the president treated us. He treated us with a wave of hand, like, go back, and go and tell the governor to abide by what the Supreme Court had said.
But the
By the
governor
time,
was already doing what the Supreme Court actually.
thank you, the governor was already, immediately the judgment was passed, the governor relieved the local government chairman
Yes.
of their elective position because of the judgment of the Supreme Court, and immediately asked them to hand over to people who are workers, the head of whatever local government, outside of the elected local government chairman, which immediately they did. Now, because the governor had decided that he will do that, whether we felt uncomfortable or we didn't like it or he didn't like it, he was ready to do it. So because he was ready to do it, we went along with him, even though we felt that it was unjust and unfair, the judgment that was given. But that's the Supreme Court. There's no other place to go. Unless, of course, you could, the people are saying, oh, but you could ask for a review of the judgment or whatever. But the governor was not prepared for any, didn't want any of that. Is that what the Supreme Court said? Then I will represent the 2025 budget to these people that whose case is still pending in the High Court of Rivers State, where it is yet to be decided by the court for whatever it is worth, even though a lot of us have lost hope in the courts, in the judiciary system, because of their behavior. So he was already in that process. He had already taken steps to do those things. Even before we met with the president, he was already doing those things. The next thing was he asked his secretary of government to write a letter to the lawmakers and request to meet with the lawmakers so that he could discuss, he, meaning the governor, could discuss with the lawmakers the issue of what they had complained about, their monies that has not been paid them, and where they will officially sit. So he wanted to discuss that with them. They read the letter and said that they would not honor that invitation because it was signed by the Secretary of State to the government. So the governor said, all right, more like saying, okay, fine, I'm sorry. I will write the letter and I will sign it. And he wrote a letter in the same line, signed it, and attempts were made to give it to them. Phone calls were made, according to the governor, and they didn't answer the phone calls. They did not receive the letter. The governor went further after that day, which played out on social media everywhere. The governor himself drove down with his staff, drove down to the complex, and the gates that were being used since morning suddenly were shut. Nobody was opening the gate. So basically, he was locked out of one of the locations that is actually under the state government. And he stayed there conference saying, well, they don't want to see me, they've locked me out. And he left. And he wrote another letter and said to them, I came at so day at so time. Maybe you were not sitting. Can you please now give me a time when I can come and sit with you and discuss with you the things that are agitating you, and then we can move forward. They said that they were going on holidays and that they didn't know when they were going to come back. That was it took us into the weekend. So by the time Monday came along, they sent a letter to him and the deputy governor, and the letter was accusing them of whatever the letter said, misconduct or whatever. So that was how that transpired. And then the FCT minister, after all this drama, had a media chat, not about the FCT, where he rightfully belongs politically, but about Pandef. He proceeded to call Pandef irresponsible or a group that should not be trusted. That was how he described Pandef.
When Pandef went, sorry, let me make clarification here. When Pandef went for
Yes.
that to meet the president last week, was Wike informed? Did Wike send delegation to go with Pandef? Why? What made him that angry that he was so furious?
I am aware that letters were sent to people who have declared themselves supporters of the former governor of Rivers State. I am so aware because the accreditation to go to the villa and collect a tag to wear around your neck was done from the protocol people from the villa that came to the hotel. And I am sure that his people were invited because their names were called out, the same way my name was called out. And then I went and I collected my own tag and put it around my neck, like every other person from traditional rulers. If you were going to go into the villa, you were going to wear that tag around your neck. Their names were called, and the only people that did not come for that meeting were the supporters, as they identify themselves, the people who are standing
Oh,
with the Federal Capital Territory Minister
so
were the only people that didn't
sorry,
turn up
man.
for that.
So what you're saying to us is that while you people were at the presidential villa, when your names were called, the names from the camp of Wike were also called, but they didn't come along to collect their tags.
Yeah, no, we didn't even do the accreditation in the villa. They
Mhm.
came to us. They sent protocol people from the protocol office of the president to come and do the accreditation with the at the hotel, and sent buses. So after the accreditation, as we got into the buses that was sent from the villa, we were all already wearing the tags. We wore the tags from the hotel.
Mm.
So their names were repeatedly called, and
And they were,
nobody came forward
mm.
from the group that supports Wiki. Nobody came forward. So
So
therefore, it will be incorrect to say that people were not invited from the Federal Capital Territory Minister's camp. No, they were invited. They didn't show up.
now, as these went on, we had, I believe the Attorney General, who tried to give explanation at some point, said that that state of emergency was actually done to save Sim Fubara from impeachment. When you hear such statement, what comes to your mind? Do you
Well, I
believe it?
mean, it's self-explanatory because it's ridiculous, but it's funny because the Attorney General of the Federation is admitting that there is a plan still ongoing, even after the president had said to both parties that he does not want to hear the issue of impeachment anymore.
Mm,
That was what the president had said.
correct.
So now, if the president had said that, and the Attorney General of the Federation is saying that the suspension that we are complaining about was done so that Fubra would not be impeached, it then means that the other side that supports Wike are determined to impeach the governor of Rivers State. Now, if that be the case, then the question is begged as to who is disobeying and disrespecting the president, who has said that there is not going to be any impeachment of anybody.
Mm,
So if that has been said, how is it then that the state of emergency was declared to save the governor from impeachment? Not only did the Attorney General say so. Attorney General went further to accuse the governor of Rivers State of teleguiding. He used the word teleguiding. He accused the governor of teleguiding the blowing up of pipelines, bearing in mind that within the Niger Delta, at least for 20 years, on and off, pipelines have been blown up from time to time. If that be the case, is the Attorney General saying that FORA has been teleguiding the blowing up of pipelines all this while and that they've only just found it out? So, this government, in this crisis that they have thrown Rivers State into from Abuja, cannot eat their cake and have it, or have their cake and eat it, whichever way. They can't.
Okay.
They cannot say one thing and mean the other, and mean one thing and say the other. They
Um,
must tell the truth so that people are not confused. They are confusing Nigerians. This system is confusing Nigerians because
okay.
what they are saying is going on in Rivers State is not what is going on there. There is no crisis. There is no insecurity in Rivers State. Where there is insecurity is where bandits and Boko Haram and people like that are killing military men every single day and kidnapping people every single day.
As a proud Ijo daughter and mother, listening to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory say that this is not about Asawana, and insinuating that the Jaws are good at blowing up pipeline, and eventually pipeline got blown up.
Yes.
People are now questioning, were those pipeline blown by the Jaws, quote unquote, or were they blown up by those who are trying to incite that and to prove that the Jaws are only good at blowing up pipeline? What's your take?
Well, luckily for us, the the Federal Capital Territory Minister had a media chat. He spoke to journalists where he was, I will say, shouting and saying that Ijaw people are not the only people that can blow up pipeline, that Ogoni people can blow up pipeline, that even Ikwere people can blow up pipeline, and that he himself will blow up everywhere. He said it. Now, that's one. Two, he proceeded to assault the Ijaws because he's been trying to make this thing an ethnic thing in Rivers State, and we have continuously made it very clear that what is happening in Rivers State, is about the soul, the economic soul, the power control of the money of Rivers State people, and has nothing to do with Ijaw people or Ikwere people disagreeing. It has to do with political power control and the control of the resources of Rivers State. But like I said, Rivers State is not a charitable organization. We cannot continue to be the only state that are willing to bring out our hard-earned money that we have suffered for under destruction of our environment, and use it when anybody wants to run for president of Nigeria. They use River State money. No, it has to stop. So now, when the governor started, he first of all, he said that we are minority amongst minorities. This is hate speech. This is bordering on hate speech.
How?
We are not. Look, when you attack a particular ethnic nationality, the the UN, the United Nations, of rights of people to belong to ethnic nationalities, you are exposing them to hate. When you say that, who do they think they are? that everything is everything about Ijaw people, you are inflicting the seed of dislike and hate in other people against this particular people. That is how the United Nations and the international community views it, and that is why we have been told what is hate speech and what is not hate speech. Not only that, he went ahead and mentioned Tompolo and said that, is it not Tompolo that is protecting pipelines? Are they not the ones protecting the pipeline? Are they not the ones blowing up the pipeline? He went further and mentioned Chief E.K. Clark. Chief E.K. Clark was 97 at the time that he died. He was just 3 years short of being 100, which we were praying for, that we could celebrate for him. Now, to mention a man like Chief E.K. Clark that is dead, lying in a mortuary, I can't imagine any other disrespect that can be higher than that. A nation, whether you like Ijaw people or not, a nation is mourning. And the only thing you could do was wave a hand and call his name Clark and say he cannot produce an Ijaw governor in his state, Delta State. Let me clarify something for Nigerians today. Ijaw people are divided across zones. We have 3 zones. We have Eastern Zone, which covers Akwa Ibom and River State. Under the zones, we have clans. In River State, we are in 12 local government areas. 12. So when you look at 23 local government areas and you have a people that are in 12 of those local government areas, the Calabaris are Ijaws, they are in 3 local government areas. Boni are Ijaws, they are in 1 local government area. The governor's local government is a purely Ijaw local government areas. Wakrike people are in, I think, 3 or 4 local government areas. So when you bring all this together and you say to a people like that they are minorities in a state where you, that is calling them minority, have only 3 local governments and they have 12, something has got to be wrong. Now, when you go further to say that not only are they minorities, that they are minority of amongst minorities, and that who do we think we are, and that even in the Niger Delta, that we are minorities. Ijaws are the largest ethnic nationality after Igbos. We are the 4th largest ethnic nationalities in the country Nigeria. If there is a dispute, can we please have a census to determine once and for all how much of a minority Ijaw people are in Nigeria? We're not begging to be Nigerians. We are Nigerians. And if for any reason, anybody, whether it's, no matter how high up you are in politics or whatever, and if you think you don't want Ijaws in Nigeria, we won't beg to be Nigerians. So this was what accumulated and got to where we are today, where you've heard Shoyinka say that what the president did is unconstitutional.
Okay.
It's not democratic and all of that. You've heard everybody say.
Yes.
You've heard Jonathan say, Goodluck Jonathan had said that you cannot wake up a man who is pretending to be asleep because he's awake. So he knows what he's doing.
We will come to the comments made by elder statesmen, and I think there is one also trending moments ago or earlier in the day made by His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi as well at the 60th birthday of Emeka Ihedioha in Abuja. Now let me come down to the sole administrator that has been appointed for the state. Now, what are the potential implications of these actions on the democratic process and the governance in River State, where from this standpoint, that a sole administrator has been appointed to govern River State. Does these align with certain legal framework? Because I've listened to individuals argue, say that this has no basis in law. References were made during the what was considered the first encroachment by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and the Supreme Court made a pronouncement thereafter when Goodluck Jonathan eventually, as a result of insecurity, had three states in the north, also state of emergency. Those governors, neither were the state assemblies removed. Now, looking at that, your take on this issue of sole administrator. And while you answer that, can you also touch on the point where the River State money that was not released for a very long time, citing that the case of not having an assembly and the sole administrator? How does he have assembly now? Who elected those, and how is he going to disburse that money? That money is being released to him the same day he came in. Your take.
Excuse me. First of all, this is a democratic dispensation. It's a democracy, we're told. Even the president is known to have fought on the side of democracy during Abacha's time, during IBB's time, to the extent that he had to go on self-exile. I mean, the president today had to go on self-exile. That was how much involved he was fighting for democracy. Now, my question to him is that the democracy he fought for, is it this very democracy that we are experiencing today? Because if that is the democracy he fought for, I can tell him that that is not the democracy that we want. It's not a democracy. It's autocracy. That's not what we want. Now, the sole administrator is a retired naval officer. You can compare his rank to maybe the rank of a general in the army.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that be the case, then apart from our communities and our creeks, our rivers being polluted and being occupied by the military, JTF, Air Force, and Navy because of oil installation for over 3 decades, that we now, River State people, are now being inflicted with a man who has a military mentality, trained in the military way to have risen to the rank of men that have governed this country in uniform. You have imposed him on the people of River State. The question we are asking is that what have we done for our governor and his deputy? We've never complained. We, the people who voted for Similaye Fubara, have never one day complained about the governor and the job that he's doing. Now, when you bring a man with a military background that begins to talk to traditional rulers and say to them, I warn you, or whatever, to make sure that you do not encourage cultism in your domain, it means that you've already assumed and accepted that they are encouraging cultism, or that they will encourage cultism. Now, coming to the money, that money is a very sore point for the people of River State, because that money belongs to the people of River State to be spent and used by the man we elected as our governor, not by a retired military man to come and administer our democracy to us. So, number one, the court, the Supreme Court, is the one that said the money of Rivers people should not be paid to the people of Rivers State. And yet, we have not heard that the president went to court to get that judgment, that order
To unfreeze it.
reversed before he now asked the accountant general
To
to
release.
release money to the sole administrator. That is why we're saying that the issue of Rivers State is not about governance, it's not about democracy, it is about the economic soul of Rivers State. Now, Similar Efobra, in being suspended, is no longer in control of the money that is in the bank, which, from what we're hearing, runs into hundreds of billions that is in the bank that he wants to use to work for Rivers State for the next 4 years, including what should be released to Rivers State. Now, all of a sudden, at a moment's notice, at the whim and caprices of the president, we now have a situation where we have a sole administrator that we didn't vote for, that has no right to our money, to now come and spend our money. That is very worrisome. That is absolutely very worrisome. So we are asking that it should be declared to us. We want to know how much money did Similar Efobra leave in the banks where Rivers State is banking, where Rivers State government is banking its money.
But he can say that. I mean, he should know how much he left, and he should make that public.
This is what I'm saying. So I'm saying it out loud so that the governor who is on suspension would know that we Rivers people have a right and are asking him how much money, he's an accountant though, how much money are in the accounts of Rivers State people. It's our money. It's not the money of federal government. It's not the money of the administrator to spend on our behalf. The administrator doesn't know what we want. Does he know what we want? Does he know what Ogoni people want? Does he know what Ijo people want? Does he know what Ikure people want? Does he know what Ekpeye people want? Egi people want? What does he know? He doesn't know anything about Rivers State. So he has no right to spend our money. But now, the imposition of the sole administrator seemingly has given him the right. And we're saying this is wrong. He should not have access to our money. And we want to know how much money is released to him. And we also want to know what he intends to do with that money. And therefore, he must keep record of how much of our money he's spending, because sooner than later, he will have to account to the people of Rivers State. And for the sake of transparency, how he spent that money. He cannot come into Rivers State, breeze into Rivers State because the president says so, spend our money, and then just breeze out again. He must tell us. That is accountability.
I would also want him to have declared how much he's getting paid. I mean, what is his salary? Is he doing it pro bono? Is he getting paid? But
that is also these are things that he must be transparent about. And Rivers people must be bold enough to ask those questions. And mind you, our representatives at the National Assembly and at the Federal Assembly must be able our representatives must be able to ask these questions
Question.
on our behalf. And also, the president of Senate should tell us how many people voted, how they voted, where is the list. Tambowa is saying that there was no quorum. If there is not a quorum, you can't vote on such a critical issue as removing an authentic governor of a state that was voted in the same way the president was voted in. And I also want to ask the president this question. Assuming that for any reason the president himself has to hand over, as the constitution demands that he hand over,
You say
if he is not around, he should hand over to the vice president. Is the president saying that when it comes to that, that he will take the vice president along with him so that he can disallow him from exercising his constitutional right as vice president, and that he, the president, would not allow the vice president to do his duties when he's not on seat, because that's what they have done to the deputy governor. We have been denied the service of the deputy governor because at no time in the past 2 years was the deputy governor mentioned or was she involved in any way, shape, or form. It's FUBRA that they have been calling. So at what point does she come into the suspension?
Well, the argument could be made that that's a joint ticket. But let's quickly move on and let me take your reaction on this. Earlier today, as I hinted at the beginning, at the 60th birthday of Right Honorable Emeka Ihedioha, P2B granted this interview and made the following statement. I would want to have your reaction on this.
no. So you say, yes, it is failing. Why do you say so?
Well, if you look at what Bishop Cook has said, he says it's a work in progress. Let me follow my brother when he said about 1999. If you look at where we are today, it's like they started in 1999, laid the foundation. Some people came and took it to a decking, and some people were trying to raise it to first floor, and some people came and knocked everything down. That's the situation where we are now. Everything has been knocked down. Nothing works. And I'm somebody who can say this exemplarily. I became a governor through the courts when President Obasanjo and Atiku were in government. I did not pay the court 1 naira. I was sitting in my house in the office, and the court declared me winner. When a governor is hosting them, it can't happen in Nigeria today. When I was being impeached, the president sent people to come and intervene on my behalf. Ken Namani came begging House people not to impeach me. Today, the president impeaches the person. So that is the thing. So it's collapsed. So it's failed. They were begging my house not to impeach me. And they were PDP. I was in Abga. And they were begging. President was calling me and said, Peter, are you okay? Well, even when I was impeached, President Obasanjo called me and said, are you okay? Are you safe? When I go back from the court, when court eventually declared me under Andioba, President Yaradua called my phone in London and said, congrats. I said, President, I can't come back because, if I come back, these people, he said, tell me the flight in which you're coming back. And I told him, when I came, it's the first time military people came to receive me at the airport. I couldn't believe it and took me straight to him. Now the president will ask me not to come back here again. So it's failed. Let's talk about how we are going to rebuild it. It's collapsing.
Now, sitting down, listening to this, Peter B talks about how the system that Nigeria practices is collapsing, both from the judicial angle and the executive. Do you agree with him? And what's your take?
Absolutely. I agree with him. You see, you cannot have lived in Nigeria straight from 1999 when Obasanjo's dispensation took over to today and not say that things, whether it's human rights, whether it is security, whether it is accountability, whether it's the judiciary, the judiciary, in my opinion, is selling judgments. Even the judiciary themselves are saying so. Not everybody in the judiciary, but definitely some people have given a bad name to the judiciary, that I hear people I mentor that are reading law come to me in distress and say, I don't think I want to continue with law. And I say, why? And they say, what's the point of continuing with law? Law is an honorable um, occupation, if you like being a medical doctor to save lives. People go into being doctors to save people's lives, not for money. Of course, they will be paid. But I'm just saying that we've reached that level where in the next 5 years, maybe, you won't see anybody, a good lawyer, that is going to call himself a lawyer, because they've destroyed some lawyers, some judges have destroyed the reputation of judiciary. And so that is very frightening. And that's what, and this is happening in a so called democracy, mind you. These things did not even happen the way they are happening today. They didn't even happen in the time of the military, where you have now democracy being turned on its head by people who say that they are Democrats, by people who fought the military. I begin to ask myself, if I compare somebody, the days of the military, and you compare what we're going through today, you have to ask yourself, I mean, which one is worse? So Obi is quite right when he says it's been knocked down. If we truly want democracy in Nigeria, we have to build it. We have to build it, because there is no democracy. We don't have democracy. We don't. When somebody cannot, when you talk, people say, you can't talk like that. Look at what happened to our friend Faritimi. Look at what happened to him. He wrote a book, and he says he stands by the content of his book. At the end of the day, it had to be resolved, because he's saying that that is what he knows. So when somebody cannot speak on what they know, what then can you speak on? What you don't know? When Nigerians are afraid to tell the president that what you are doing is not democratic, and that you cannot turn the other way, knowing fully well that what the people who support you are doing is wrong. You know that it is wrong. And you're part of the problem now. I mean, like Peter Obi said, what it means is that it is the president has involved himself to the extent that he is prepared to impeach a governor. So now, by what the Attorney General is quoted as saying, that Fubra was suspended to save him from impeachment. Impeachment from whom? Who suspended him? The president suspended him. So whom is the president saving him from? It seems like the president is trying to save him from the president. So he has given him suspension when he could have impeached him. That is for me, that is my understanding of it. And that is, when I say it's frightening, it's horrific that Nigeria, people died. People died. People that the president knows died. So that we claim that Abacha was removed and democracy came back to Nigeria. And some of us are alive today because some people died, including the president. Some of his colleagues that he said fought against the military with him died. He is alive today to say that he fought against the military and he lived to tell the story. But now he, as a civilian and a Democrat, is now imposing the military on the people. He's a Democrat, he says. He fought for democracy, he says. He's a civilian president under democracy, he says. And yet, he is treating Rivers people, Rivers State, as if he owns us. He doesn't own us. He doesn't own the people of Rivers State. His supporters don't own the people of Rivers State. The people of Rivers State are not slaves. We are not their slaves.
Before we round up, we have heard many notable Nigerians, including the Nobel laureates, speak against the constitutionality of this. But one striking condemnation came from Annie, the former president of the Federal Republic, in the person of Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, who used an Indian uh, parable or proverb to describe what he sees happening in Nigeria. Let's just have
The
it.
country. In most cases, look at America, look at everywhere. So hardly for former presidents to make. Sometimes you see and you look. And of course, what is happening in Nigeria today regarding the situation in River State is like an Indian proverb that said that if somebody is sleeping, really sleeping, you can easily wake up that person. But if the person is pretending to sleep, you find it difficult to wake up that person.
Now, listening to this, do you think? I don't know. Maybe I misunderstand what the former president was trying to say. Do you think he's saying that the the current president of the Federal Republic, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is pretending to sleep on the issues concerning River State?
It's what the former president said is self-explanatory. Even if you say it to a primary school student, they will understand, because we have all men and women at some time in the night have pretended to be asleep. And even when attempt has been made to wake us up, the person making the attempt cannot wake us up because we are asleep, they think. And we want them to think that we are asleep, but we know that we're not asleep. And so unless that person wants to accept that they are awake, you can't wake that person up. It's self-explanatory. Not only that, a few weeks before this time, this same former president spoke in Abuja, and I said that, and he said that perhaps very soon, I'm paraphrasing, that we have to build, Nigerians, we all Nigerians, have to build a place where we keep some people's photograph and identify them as the people that have spoiled Nigeria, and put other people's photograph in a place where we identify them as people that have not spoiled Nigeria. Again, here is a man that has had his own fire. He has had his own fire. And he came into governance. He was not naive. He was just a humble son of a fisherman who was a lecturer and an academic that ended up becoming a deputy governor because his community needed to produce a deputy governor, and he was working on UMPADEC. and they approached him, and he said he doesn't want to go into politics, and they told him, you will go into politics because it has come to our community, and we have chosen you to go into politics. And so every step of the way of Jonathan's political career, he was moved from one from one ladder of politics to the other, kicking and screaming. And so he has learned his lesson. I mean, we all know what happened to him now. They taught him a shege. They showed him, that if you want to come into politics and you want to change the lives of Nigerians for better, we will not allow you, because that is not what we want for Nigerians. What we want for Nigerians are Nigerians that will be suffering. The late Pa Adebanjo was quoted as saying during the election that Nigerians who vote for the present president, that he may not be alive to see them suffer because he's in his 90s, but that they will suffer. You see, what old men see sitting down, what I know as someone in my 70s, I don't care how much technology my children know. What I can see sitting down, they will not even understand it if they see it standing up. Before we came on air, because of this your new stream that you're using, we first started with Zoom and then you moved to something else. I've never used this before. You know that I had to call a young person that they called the Gen Z or whatever they call them now to come and help me before we could go on air. So reality is that what is happening in Nigeria today, right before our very eyes, is what we never thought would happen. But it is happening. And people like me who are standing up to be counted are not standing up to be counted for my sake anymore. Pa Clark used to say, I'm in the waiting lounge. Here is my ticket and my boarding pass. And I used to say to him, Daddy, don't be saying that. We're going to celebrate your 100th birthday. We need you. Don't be saying that. But in retrospect, that was how he knew that he would die one day. But his death came as a shock because we saw him as our defender. He was standing in front of us. You have to pass through Chief E.K. Clark to disrespect Niger Delta people. You have to pass through him. And immediately Chief E.K. Clark died. Look at what is happening to the Niger Delta people. So
are you insinuating that were he to be alive, this wouldn't have happened?
I am absolutely and definitely certain that if Chief E.K. Clark were alive, we would not have been disrespected the way that we were disrespected in the villa. And the coup that was staged against Rivers State, in the way and manner in which it was done, would not have been done. And if it was done, Chief E.K. Clark will not be quiet. Even Chief Pa Adebanjo would not be quiet if he were alive today. He will not be quiet. And so when the old men that are defending us in their old age are suddenly taken away from us, it throws us into some kind of a disarray. And if you look, Pa Adebanjo died, and within a week, Chief E.K. Clark died. And so people like us they are behind people, their servants, if you like, the people they were mentoring, it took us as a surprise. Because somebody like me, when something confuses me and I ask Chief E.K. Clark, he will give me the answer and give me the encouragement that I needed. Now, he's not there. And all of these things are just rolling after us. And we've not even buried Chief E.K. Clark. And this is being inflicted on the people of River State. Look, if
Okay.
it's happening to River State today, it can happen to any of the rest of the 35. Look at what happened in Lagos. The speaker was impeached and somebody else was appointed speaker. What happened? The speaker that was impeached was brought back, and the person that was
Reinstated.
appointed to replace him had to resign. Was it Annkio that did it? I'm not from Lagos. Was it Annkio that did it? No. Who are the people that orchestrated it? That is what's going on in Nigeria today. Anything that somebody or a group of people don't like, they kill it. They
Okay.
kill it.
In rounding up, says here, let's, we're rounding up now. But I must ask this question. In your view, what legal avenues are available to challenge the federal government's decision on this River State matter? And do you foresee any such challenges being successful? Again, bearing in mind the comments made by former Anambra State Governor, His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi.
Unfortunately, the judiciary, I always say that because there are some people who are fighting tooth and nail for the cleansing of the judiciary. People like my young friend Chidi Odenka Kalu, and so many people like Falana are talking that this is not right. This is not how the judiciary should be. So when I look at the judiciary today, I'm afraid. I'm sincerely afraid because the symbol of the judiciary has been completely, permit me to use the word, has been disgraced. The woman of justice that represents true justice, that holds a sword in one hand, a scale in the other, and on top of it, blindfolded, so that when she is striking or judging, she's doing it purely on the basis of not supporting this side or that side, or not being bought or not being sold. So I'm afraid for the whole judiciary because of some judiciary people that are willing to turn the judiciary on its head and strip the judiciary naked in the market square is unacceptable, because everywhere all over the world people are told that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. And yet, when you look at what is happening in other parts of the world, and you say to yourself, if this can happen in America, where we are told is the bedrock of democracy and supporters of democracy, of justice and everything, what Americans are going through today is similar to what Nigerians are going through. So really, even the judiciary in America is involved in being accused of being corrupt. And so we can no longer even compare anything that is happening in Nigeria to the judiciary. So to answer your question, I am worried, even though we're told that River State, the governor, could challenge the judgment. Will the governor be willing to challenge the judiciary? It is his right. But will he not be accused of not wanting peace and disobeying the judiciary that we don't trust? So if we can, there are some people have gone to court, people are in court.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, there is the case of having a locus, because I can already predict that the court would strike most of the cases out that they do not have locus. But again, like you pointed out, if the governor who has the ultimate right to go to court. If he didn't, or rather, if he does go to court, it might be used against him as someone who does not want peace. Again, it's a very good. It has been a very good conversation with you. Thank you very much for joining me and being my guest. And I'll say to you, this was a deep dive into the issues in River State. Like you all know, my guest today was Annkio Briggs, a renowned environmental human rights activist from the Niger Delta region, and has been a steadfast advocate for the rights of the people in the Niger Delta, and brought a wealth of experience and knowledge into this conversation this evening. Thank you once more for being my guest.
Mazi, please, can I very quickly add this?
Yes,
That
please, go ahead.
even though with all those concerns and fears that I have expressed,
Yes.
it is our right to tell our governor that it is his responsibility to us
Mm,
to stand up and defend our rights. If
mm,
the courts are available to us, for him in our name, in case we are told local standing, I don't see how people of River State, under these circumstances, will be told that we don't have a right to approach the courts. But in case they do, the only person who can do it in our name and for our sake, even though he does not want to do it, he will be failing us if at the end of the day he allows this to go the way and manner in which the people who have no respect for the law are telling us and him to obey the law. What law are we being called to obey? The one that they are disobeying or the one that they are obeying? Thank you very much, Mazi.
Thank you very much. Thank you once more. Like I said, it's been a very nice time with you here on Njenje Media TV. Hopefully, we are going to be, as the case continue. Many of us do believe that maybe, and I believe you too, that this whole brouhaha may not last up to 6 months. I
Yeah.
mean, because I think some individuals are beginning to realize that they've made mistakes,
Yeah.
and the backlash that they are getting, I guess, was not expected. Thank you very much once more for being my guest. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you
Have a
very
good
much.
evening.
So, everyone, thank you for being our guests this evening. It's been a very fantastic conversation with Annkio Briggs, and please do join us again tomorrow evening and the State of the Nation on Saturday, and hopefully we are going to be getting a guest for you on the State of the Igbo Nation also on Sunday. On that note, I say good night from my side.
Ah, la, 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 la.